Expo. So the Heritage Expo, it was launched in 2019 in Gauteng, where we are focusing mainly on the arts and heritage part. So we have different partnerships with 9-seaters, as well as the DHET. DHET, it's the Deputy Minister's project, Buti Manamela. So this event is, this year it was launched on the 4th of June in Bloemfontein, where we were hosted by the Muteo TVET College at the Artisan Center. And then we had Fashion Day at Gauteng at the Constitutional Hill. So today we are here in Cape Town hosting the Food Day. On the 26th of July, we'll be going to Mpumalanga for the Arts and Heritage Day, where we'll be focusing mainly on the arts and the heritage. And then the closing ceremony is gonna be on the 10th of July in KwaZulu-Natal at the Machuba TVET College. So I would like to welcome Food and Bev on stage. Can we give them a big round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you all doing? Aibo, kwenzakalani in Cape Town? This crowd here doesn't look very happy. The crowd there in the middle is pretending to be happy. It's cold. Who's from Johannesburg in here? So you can't compare. You can't compare. But without further ado, without wasting too much time, my name is Makatseng Mokome. I'm the Senior Manager for Stakeholder Relations at Foodbev CETA. And you're probably wondering, what is Foodbev CETA? Foodbev CETA is one of the 21 CETAs that was mandated by the Department of Higher Education and Training to support businesses, high institutions of learning, and anyone that is requiring soft skills to either, create more employment or, acquire new skill. That's in a nutshell. We're not going to, draw out what is it the CETA does. Primarily what Foodbev CETA does is, imagine this, you plant a potato on the ground, then the potato gets extracted from the ground. Then what happens to that potato? The potato could either become mashed potato or potato chips, right? So where Foodbev CETA gets involved is the processing of that potato into becoming chips or Simba chips in a nutshell. So that's primarily what we do. And who do we support? We support all businesses, all institutions of higher learning that, teaches either food handling, food safety, or how to process, food. And ultimately then what happens is we have companies that pay what is called levies to us. And with those levies, we could either give a company that pays those levies what is called a mandatory grant, which will now go to the big companies that are in the processing business, right? And then secondary to that, we have another funding model called a discretionary funding model. And what happens with that model is, if you are a small business or what we call a small micro, medium enterprise, SMME, you will then either fall into a category called the discretionary grant funding window, and then we fund your business, right? And then the third part is what is called a partnership. With a partnership, what we generally will do, you come through as a business, you tell us, I live in community X, and this is what I found in my community. I've got this, and this is how much this thing is costing me. What is it that you, Foodbev CETA, can, support me with? It's a partnership. It literally means that. And what we're finding is the food and beverages sector, it's one of the fastest growing sectors in this country. Everyone is becoming a food producer. Everyone now understands how that works. It's one of the sectors that employs more people in this country because everyone has to eat, right? Everyone has to eat. So what we basically do is we will help you in your business with skills development. But what we don't do, which we try and, explain to a lot of people, is we don't support startups. You must come to us with something you've started. We've seen that this thing is working out. You've tested it. You have a sense of what your market wants. You have a sense of how you want to grow your own business. We then work with you from there. So generally, people will come and say, look, I own a chili sauce business out of my mom's kitchen. Fantastic, that's great. What else? I've sold it to my cousins and my neighbors, and everyone in my streets love this thing. Now support me, I want to start a factory. I'm like, okay, how much money do you want? I want 20 million rand. What are you going to do with 20 million? I was thinking I will make more chili sauce. Okay, that's great. Like, we love chili sauce. Nando's also had a story, right? But what are you going to do with 20 million? And the problem with young entrepreneurs or young businesses, they never know what they're going to do with that money. So can you see now why we will go for someone that feels like they've understood the business, they've done some research? Because let's just say we grant you 20 million rand. We say, here's 20 million, go do what you gotta do. Do you know what happens to a lot of businesses? They fail. That's too much money, they just don't know how to manage it. And unfortunately with the CETA, with FoodBev CETA at least, is when you apply for funding and when we give you funding, when you've told us is what you're gonna do with that money, if you don't do it, we're gonna come back and get it from you. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna want it back because there's another business somewhere that needs that money, that can use it wisely to be able to fund their businesses, to grow and create employment. So that is primarily what we do and how we do it. And I don't know if there's any questions before I proceed or if I can close, but that's primarily how we do it. And what we generally do, we have one funding window every financial year. The other one is going to be opening around October this year. So you better, keep your tabs on who we are. Follow us on social media. Get in touch with me. Let's load you on our database so that we're able to communicate with you when we have funding windows for you to be able to access funding for your training needs in your business. The other thing that we don't, fund is infrastructure. If you want to build a factory, right? We don't fund the building of that factory. We fund the hands that are going to be running the factory, which is those skills. So if you're coming to us and you're saying, with that 20 million, I want to build a factory, we won't fund you. We're going to direct you to a CEDA or a CIFLA, which actually supports businesses with infrastructure, with buying equipment. We just really help you with the soft skills that you need. If in your factory you're making chili sauce, we will, help you with skills where people need to handle that chili and how to chop it and how not to cook it in a whatever way to help you get compliance with what is called HACCP. People that work in the food industry will know what that means. So that's primarily what we support you with. So think hard about it. We want to see young women, and it's encouraging to see more women in this room today. Women are still marginalized in this industry. Even in the careers that are available, women in managerial positions in the food and beverages sector are still very little. It's still a very white-dominated industry, and we would like to see more people of color enter the industry and really do well. But it's actually up to you at the end of the day. It really, really is up to you. So I don't know if there's any questions for FoodBev CETA. That is FoodBev CETA in a nutshell. I don't know, Ramaru, was I supposed to do more, or is that good? Okay, but then if you need to understand more about what we do and the careers that are available in the food and beverages sector, please do visit us in the hall outside. You see this gentleman, please stand up, Maramaru, and wave. He's wearing this jacket. There is a FoodBev CETA banner if you would like to know more about what we do and how we do it, especially from a careers perspective. We definitely are looking forward to have more people entering the industry and really making sure that sustainable food security is a serious issue in Africa, it's a serious issue in South Africa, it's a serious issue in the Western Cape also. So we do look forward to hopefully transacting with you one day, and let's just grow the industry together. If there's no questions, I'm going to step down, but if you are shy, you can approach me on the side, we can have a conversation. on how we can advance you further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Food and Bev. I'm gonna call one of the stakeholders to come and introduce herself. It's just an introduction, just like I told you myself that I'm Priscilla Bobo from Cath Sita. I'm gonna call Apiwe to come on stage. Can we just shout, hooray!
Molweni, bonweni Kapa bethunana. Ninjani? Ndiyaphila, sorry. Igama nguAphiwe Nxusani Mawela. I am actually coming from eJoburg ngoku, so I don't stay around Cape Town. So away, my Cape Town people, that's what I was saying. I was told I'm doing a talk, but now I'm told to introduce myself, so I don't know how many minutes I've been given. So I will talk up until they tell me to stop, and I can talk. So yeah, Apiwe is originally from the Eastern Cape. That's where I grew up, from Butterworth. Yes. See, Makaya. I am a brewmaster by qualification. I studied brewmaster to become a beer maker, so I make beer for a living. I make beer for a living, and that is something that I studied. I'm a microbiologist. Just while we're waiting, why I got into beer making as part of my introduction. Like I said, growing up in the Eastern Cape, you guys know some of these things we do not know about. I got introduced to the study of microbiology when I attended an open day, a career expo at one of the universities. I did my high school in Johannesburg, and they were showcasing in the stand. They actually had yogurt, they had cheese, they had a bottle of wine, they had a can of beer. It was a Castle Lager. I'd never touched alcohol in my life. I was still underage, under 18. And that for me, I thought that was, like when we think science, I don't know about you guys, when you think science, most of the time you think lab coat, goggles in a lab, looking in the microscope the whole day. And for me, I was quite excited to see that when they talk science, this was a science degree exhibition, and they had food product. And before that, I'd never actually connected the two, that food and beverages and things that we eat every day are actually science. I told my father, Tata, I'm a microbiologist. His first question was, Donle. So I had to explain what a microbiologist does, and his second question was, which means where are you going to work? I had identified South African breweries as one of my high-level potential employers. His third question was, is there money in this thing? And because for me at that time, I think growing up, there was a lot of people that worked for SAP. You guys might know some of them, they drive nice cars, they stay in nice places. So I said, yeah, there's money. And that's how I got into beer. And that was many, many years ago. I'm actually very old. Yes, gray hair. Lots of gray hair here. But for me, my talk later is on being an outlier. I don't know how many of you guys know about the book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Anyone heard of the book? If you don't know it, please read it. How many minutes do I have? Oh, am I done? So in my next discussion, when I'm given another opportunity to come stand here, I will tell you about why I believe I am an outlier and what made me to become an outlier. And I'll unpack what the book is about also. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Apiwe. I wanted one person who can do one dance for us so that we can show them that we are still young and capable, you know. So, if the DJ has one song that we can challenge each other, or maybe we can clap hands so there's no song. Can I choose two people at the audience to do Mlando? Okay, I'm gonna choose, ne? One person to do Mlando. So they have showed me one. I'm selecting one here with a white t-shirt. Let's give him a hand. I'm serious. Okay, he's going to sing. So the person that I'm choosing. Okay, I'm waiting. The gentleman with the red jacket. And then I need one lady, one lady, one lady. Okay, let's see. The lady with the braids, come. Guys, I'm waiting, come. On clap, 1, 2, 3, they should come in front. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Guys, we're waiting, come. The one with the black jacket. Ma'am, I'm not blind, the maroon. Okay, I'm connecting with my phone. While you start getting ready, who has nice music? Who has got nice music? Hello? Gentleman with the red jacket, come, please say. Time. Guys, come. Okay, play. Okay, gentleman with the red jacket, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. it. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, for the last time, thank you so much for the lovely two ladies and the gentlemen for coming up front to show us that we are still young and we are capable of being young entrepreneurs, as well that we are able to dance. Who wants to open their own business? Woo. I've got insurance, I'm covered. Who wants to open their business? Which business do you want to open? Wow. Another one? You say? Oh, lovely. Ladies, you can't be challenged by men. Let's go. Yes, ma'am? Printing. Lovely. So there's FP&M CETA. They deal with printing. And then as well as the one who wants to do clothing, FP&M CETA. And then who also wants to open their own business? Yes, ma'am? Oh, wow, lovely. Another one, the last one. Yes, ma'am? Bakery. Or catering. Or you want to cook. Okay, you need to challenge me as well. Okay, you can go to the stand that is written Kath Sita, and also there's Feed Group. They deal with hospitality. So you've got different ways of gathering information. So now I'm gonna introduce our next speaker. Just hold on for a second. You know, nowadays we don't have papers, so we have to look the program. Okay, our next speaker is gonna be Mr. Nasif Mohammed from the Private Wealth Consult. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm not Nasif Mohammed, as you can see. So my name is Shamima Nazir, and I have our whole team here in the front. Zara will be taking over from me shortly. So let me just tell you a little bit about our company. So we call the Private Wealth Group. We are insurance people, and we align to the insurance sector. So it was interesting to note that a lot of you said what kind of businesses you want to open. But with that comes responsibility also towards public, towards yourself, towards your staff members, and how you operate. So Zara will speak to you a lot about the insurance part of it. So currently we are an insurance company, but we also do learnerships with students that have joined us to do insurance and to get accredited in the insurance industry. So what we do is we get people to learn how to do the business, what the business entails. We actually do learnerships in the communities. We teach financial literacy programs and training to communities, to businesses, and all those things. We've got three legs to our business. Okay, so one is called Private Wealth, which is under the umbrella of Old Mutual, but we deal with all insurances. So we deal with Sanlam, Liberty, Old Mutual, Discovery, all of them. Then we have one which is called Future Growth, which deals only with Old Mutual products. And then we have Future Wealth, which is all the learnerships, the projects, the mass market products, and all of them. So Zara will take over from me to tell you a little bit more about insurance and how insurance covers your business and what covers you really need in insurance.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see me. There's no stool here, so I'm just going to stand on my toes so you can see me. On behalf of myself and my team, we're all sitting in the front. I'd like to thank you for taking the time out and spending your day with us. As Shamima mentioned, my name is Zara, and by profession, I'm a financial advisor. We represent Private Wealth Consult, and in a nutshell, we provide bespoke financial planning across all platforms. All of our advisors are experts in their own right, leaving our clients confident that they're in the right hands. Our objective is to make sure that every single client we engage with has the right tools to not only create personal wealth, but to also protect it and leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. There's a huge misconception that appointing an advisor or planning for your future is only for the affluent. This can't be further from the truth. We've come across many instances where families are left destitute due to inadequate financial planning or a complete lack thereof. So at Private Wealth, we have access to all major financial services providers, like Shamima mentioned. So that is Old Mutual, Liberty, Discovery, Allan Gray, all of them. We have an advantage which makes it easiest to find the best suited for your specific needs. Whether it be for financial creation and growth through the investment platforms, or wealth protection, where we would then conduct a financial needs analysis and focus on how to cover any shortfalls you might have. So this is personal as well as for your business. We also provide short-term insurance, which is obviously your business, household, contents, car vehicles, all of those type of things. We do comparative quotes upon request and save you money in that aspect as well. Majority of us work very hard for those who are dependent on us. God forbid if anything happens to you and you're the breadwinner in your home, what are they left with? There's always an objection to life insurance. In essence, life insurance is just risk management. We transfer the risk from families and businesses who cannot afford it to insurance companies who can. If you look at the bigger picture, insurance providers aren't bothered if you aren't there anymore, because out of 100 people, 99 are still paying their premiums. They've only lost 1%. But if you are the one to your family and your business, they are losing 100%. It's simply risk management. This is where your financial planning for your future, as well as those you leave behind, works at its optimum. We provide funeral covers, wills, as well as estate planning to ensure the safety and financial security of those you leave behind. Nobody likes discussing these things, but we cannot delay the inevitable. The only guarantee in life is death. So once again, thank you for your time. If you have any questions or require further assistance with regards to your personal goals or career aspirations, we're all here. I'm going to introduce Zakaria for you guys. He's one of our interns through our learnership, and he will give you a bit of more information about how it is to work into the industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. At this moment, I would like you, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our Deputy Minister, Buti Manamela. Let's show him how we welcome the Deputy Minister. Do you know your Deputy Minister? Who? Do you know your Deputy Minister? Serious, guys. I'm going to call you to do Mlando again if you don't know the Deputy Minister. Okay, for the last time, let's welcome the Deputy Minister and the entourage while they are having a 5-minute sit on 1, 2, 3. Please welcome our Deputy Minister, Buti Manamela.
Hello? Eta? Who's it? We're good. Okay, thank you for for that roaring welcome. I'm with the Vice Chancellor here, Professor Tlapo. A couple of people from the work with. And we just came in to greet you. But I think I just want, I'm told I must just be as brief as this. I'm told I must just be as brief as possible. So I just want to say three things. Well, four things. I wanted to say three things, but I was listening to the presenter here. I thought maybe I must actually say four things. And the last thing well, firstly, we understand you here as part of a workshop, potential entrepreneurs, and I really want to encourage you on that route. If you have an idea, if you want to pursue an idea, if you believe in the reality of that idea and its practicality, and we really want to encourage you because it is only through entrepreneurship that we can help young people contribute to the growth of our economy and let them be part of building a better country. We're facing high numbers in terms of unemployment, high numbers in terms of young people who are being pushed into poverty, and yes, government has to create the platform within which young people can be able to prosper, and these are some of those platforms. And we can only do so much in giving young people in particular a hand up for them to be able to help contribute in building our country. So that's thing one I wanted to say. But thing two is that I understand that most, if not all of you, are not in employment, maybe in some education or training institution. And, and the fact that you took time to come here and to be part of this workshop, whose preoccupation is around entrepreneurship, I think for me it's effort enough. And I hope that you'll be able to learn some of the tricks. There are some chefs who has spoken to you or will be talking to you, and people, experts in different areas. And I think that knowledge that they themselves has accumulated should help contribute to your own experiences that you may already have and accumulated to help you move forward. Now, if you're not in an educational training institution, you're already in a university of technology where a lot of things are happening. We've got TVET colleges that are providing academic programs on some of the things that are presented in the stalls. So I hope from interacting with the people in the stalls, they will spike your interest in one area or another that you may want to pursue entrepreneurially or as business, because going out and looking for a job is no longer the only option. We need young people who will go out there and help create jobs. And so all these people that you see around here who are displaying their products have actually gone to some academic institution to get training for. So the last thing, the presenter said, the only thing that's guaranteed is death. That was scary, that was shocking, but that's true. But the only other thing that's also guaranteed is life, and you only have it once. And I want to use it to the best of your ability. Thank you very much.
Guys, on count of three, let's stand to thank the Deputy Minister while they were going out. 1, 2, 3, thank you so much. Okay, while we are continuing with our program, I hope you grabbed what the minister just said to you so that you'll be able to open your businesses and also and gather information from all the stands that are out there. So let's continue so that we'll be able to move to the next phase of the program. I'm gonna call Insurance SETA so that they can introduce themselves and tell us more about their SETA. Thank you. A round of applause.
Molweni. Molweni. Ninjani? Niphilile. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Brian Nduli. I come from the Insurance SETA. My other colleagues have spoken about SETAs. For you might have not heard clear, SETAs are sectoral education training authorities. So there are 21 SETAs in South Africa, and we are the Insurance SETA. So as the Insurance SETA, we are mandated to facilitate skills development within the insurance sector. Ne? Do you know the insurance sector? Do you know carriers in the insurance sector? So one of the purposes why we do such initiatives of hosting carrier exhibitions is whereby we trying to introduce you or give you information in terms of the vast opportunities that are available within the insurance sector. So as the insurance sector, we offer funding for bursaries, we offer funding for learnerships, we offer funding for work integrated learning, we offer funding for entrepreneurship programs as well, which is one of the purposes why you are here today. Ne? So I'll play just a short video that will shed some light for you guys in terms of what INSETA does. So do you have any questions so far? No questions? Okay. So the video I'll play for you will just highlight the importance of insurance in one's life, or businesses and other household items.
Aibo! Yee, 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 yee. man, driver, do you have an appointment in heaven that I don't know of? Why? Eh? Hey, Baba, why are you trying to kill me? No. I want my refund, or else I'm going to sue you.
Hey, Tula Wena man, what does a fetus like you know about suing? In fact, get out of my takes.
What?
I said get out. Did it.
Kagiso speaking.
Good morning, sir. Is your cell phone covered?
Of course I have a cover. Plus a screen protector. Unlike my stupid sister Boka. She didn't buy a cover. You should see it. It looks like a spider web created by a spider that's going through a midlife crisis.
No. I mean, is it insured?
What kind of a moron insures a phone? I saw. And like, who gave you my number?
You will not believe how amazing my health app is. I got tickets to go watch a movie this weekend. Do you want to come with? Ish, you know if you open your dictionary and check the word broke, you'll find Tabani next to it as a synonym. Don't worry about the cost, Tabani. The tickets are free and my mom will drop us off. Yeah, Ndwana, I'm so glad to see you. Bella almost kicked the bucket.
What are you trying to tell me, Ndwana?
Yes, that stupid taxi driver caused an accident on our way here. All I heard was pop. Next thing, people are flying out the windows. Next thing, I'm holding the driver by the neck. Chiggy, so there's an ocean flowing out of his pants. So I let him go because I can't even swim.
You almost took a one-way trip to the upstairs, Mus.
Ejo, if it wasn't for my streetwise thinking, I would have a new physical address at the graveyard. The only thing I was worried about was how empty and boring everyone's lives would be if I died.
Taxi drivers are reckless. Taking taxis is an extreme sport these days.
Donna, I want to sue that driver so good. When I'm done with him, he'll have to pick me up from my bed and drop me off right at my school desk every day.
I don't know much about law, but I'm quite sure you are pushing it. Let's go to those teachers' pets and find out. Accept, Chickenator. Me and BK want to sue the taxi driver who almost killed him this morning. Tell us how we can go about it.
Legal aid is really expensive unless you have a legal insurance. Insurance, eh?
Yes. See, the concept of insurance is to protect against future possible financial losses. Like, did the driver have cover for accidents? If he did, the insurance can help pay for damages to his vehicle. It's quite expensive to repair a car with no insurance. I also know that taxis must also have passenger liability cover.
Yabo, you have started with your gourmet English now. What's passenger mobility now? Passenger liability cover is a form of insurance that protects taxi owners in cases where they get into accidents that cause injury or even death of passengers.
Sounds like a scam to me. Are you saying if BK had legal insurance, you'd be able to sue the taxi drivers free of charge?
Not quite. See, the idea of insurance is that people put away a little bit of money in case something bad happens. In your case, legal help to sue. The payments are called premiums.
Premiums? Hey,
it's like a stokvel, but just bigger. It's just more advanced than that because it considers other stuff like probabilities and risks.
BK, if you had a medical aid, you could go see a doctor for that pounding head. You wouldn't even have to pay cash after consultation. Like, as in the doctor checks me for free. Well, the doctor would claim his money from your medical aid. Medical aid is also a type of insurance.
And like this insurance thing is for losers. I cross bridges when I go to them.
Done. Let's bounce. Because if this weird and say one more word, my head will explode for real this time.
And when I'm Jarana, you better have a student liability cover or what? In case you mess up my homework. My phone. I just bought this phone last week.
See, if you had insured your phone, you'd be getting a new phone now. But I guess you are crossing that bridge you asked for.
Shut up, Bonashakshu. And to think just moments ago, some lady called me to insure my phone. Aha! BK, let's get out of here.
Hey? Homebrewed Johnny Bravo and his handbag have a lot to learn about insurance, hey?
I think the storage are messing with his head.
Thank you very much to the insurance SETA. You see technology now. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna call one of the learners who also is a beneficiary from the insurance center to tell us more about the program that he was doing. On round applause for the gentleman, please come in front.
Hi everyone. So, so my name is Zakaria. I'm 24 years old, and I've been in the INCITA course now for 4 months. So coming into the course, I knew absolutely nothing about insurance, and I can tell you that these past 4 months I've learned so much, and it's really opened my eyes to the insurance industry and the careers that there are once you have the right accreditation. So the course consists of 3 phases, and in those phases you'll get a good understanding of the legislation that's involved in insurance, money laundering, and the various insurance acts. The other side of the course is actual training in the office with a mentor, and on that side of things you've learned how to deal with clients and the various systems that they use to capture and submit their work. So yeah, it's been an incredible experience so far. I'm looking forward to the rest of it and hopefully a successful career as a financial advisor afterwards. Thank you.
So actually these programs, they do help if you do a learnership, because at the end of the day, you'll be able to channel what you want to do with your future. So other people, they were born to be business owners, others, they were born to be career developers, and then others were born to be mentors, and others, they were born to create more entrepreneurs within different industries. So I'm gonna ask Apiwe to tell us why did she start her business and what motivated her as a female, black, young, to open the business. And the good thing is that she is opening a business and brewing her own beer. That is one amazing thing. So I'm gonna ask Apiwe to tell us her story, how she came up with the concept of wanting to produce her own beer. Thank you.
Is it fine? How many minutes do I have?
About 7 minutes. 7 minutes we can cover a lot. But most of all, I want you to tell us where you started and your achievements and where you are currently.
Okay. 7 minutes. So my claim to fame, you can Google me, by the way. Like serious, Google Apiwe Nxusani Mawela, without an H. APIWE. So my claim to fame is I'm the first person in South Africa to have completed the Food Bev SITA and QF6 brewing qualification. I'm the first person in South Africa, actually in the continent, to have started their own brewing company. I am the youngest chairperson of the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, which is based in London. I'm the founding chairperson of the Beer Association of South Africa. So my journey has been an interesting one. I said earlier on that I consider myself an outlier. I own a brand called Tolokazi. Tolokazi is my clan name. Yes, it's Dukosam. I celebrate who we are as Africans through that brand. It is a brand that is going global, so you can Google me now or Google me in 5 years' time. The beer is currently available in London, and I'm currently talking to some guys in the States. And this all started from someone who grew up in the Eastern Cape. Tolokazi as a brand, I'm based in Johannesburg. I produce different types of beers and ciders. The product, I've been in the entrepreneurial space since 2015. Before that, I used to work for SAB. I worked for SAB for about 10 years. That's where I qualified to become a brewmaster. And when I left, started my own company, which was funded by the IDC. Unfortunately, due to COVID, I closed down. It was also in the news, if you watch your news. For now, the focus has been on Tolokazi. The journey, I won't lie to you guys, I'm sure I'm going to be asked later. Being in the entrepreneurial space is not easy. I mean, I'm telling you in 2 seconds that you can Google me, but there's many other things you won't find on Google. Times when my brewery closed, walking into a space where I owe 10 million, which I do not have. But to build up the brewery, I had to loan money. I loaned 10 million rand. Luckily, I was insured. And looking at, when that fell apart and I had to close that business, walking into the brewery and start crying to say, you know what, all that I've worked for all these years is all going down the drain. But one of the things that I've always maintained, that, nothing in life is easy. And my motto is, be so good, they can't ignore you. So whatever they say, whatever they do, they may call you that and that and the other. If you do what you do so good and be so good at it, nothing else will matter. So that is, in summary, my journey thus far. It is not over yet. There's still many more things that are yet to come. I believe that, there is a whole lot of other things, that Utolokazi is a brand that you might not know it now, but soon everyone will know about it. Don't know if there's any questions, or Madam?
No, we will come on the question part. Thank you so much, Apiwe. Let's give her a round of applause. With COVID, no one was prepared what will happen throughout the whole world. And for small businesses, which are your SMMEs, and even with the entrepreneurs. Okay, thank you. Are you done? Okay. As I was saying, that with COVID, small businesses were affected. And most families also, they lost income. So, when you have passion to do something, you are motivated that it is your business. You need to carry through your vision, your passion. You can't be entrepreneur if you are not disciplined. So you can go and ask around. Successful business people, they're all disciplined, because you need to have discipline, and also you need also to plan, because you can't just wake up to say, I'm gonna open a business. It takes planning, it takes motivation, dedication, time, sacrifices, because you just don't start from up there. You grow it. It is your baby. So those who want to be in the fashion industry to say, I'm gonna be the next David Tlale, I'm gonna be the next Gert. So you need to check, do your research. There's nothing that is gonna stop you, So I'm gonna call our next speaker, which is Muzi Dladla. Let's give Muzi a round of applause. Okay, while Muzi is setting up, is there someone who wants to show us a skill how to sing, or maybe to share I heard that there are learners who are doing another learnership that is different from Insurance Cita? Yes, don't say no. From MIC Cita, who are those learners? Can I get one learner to come and tell us what are they doing with their learnership, so that we can get another opportunity? What is it that you are doing? 1, 2, 3, let's welcome one person. Guys, MIC Cita can't be spending money and you don't want to tell us your story. Can I select someone in the group? You can't say no, I've got the powers. Can I select the lady who's wearing a white hoodie? Ma'am, come. There's another lady who's wearing a white hoodie. Is there someone who wants to tell us which learnership are they doing? Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, they wanted motivation, both of them.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thandile Makhasi. So I've been with Youth Media Movement, and which is under MIC CETA, since last year in August. We were building drones, and we learned software development, artificial intelligence, and how to develop a website.
Game design. Game design.
I'm nervous, guys.
We also did game design and programming, C# and Python. And we did unplugged coding. What else? Yeah, that's all we did with Youth Media Movement.
Well, a very good morning to everyone at present. In the absence of our coordinator, my name is Muzi Dladla from Johannesburg. I am the executive manager for stakeholder engagement at Sasria. And I'm sure most of you don't really know who Sasria is. So Sasria is an insurance company. It's a state-owned entity. I'll take you through in a presentation just to explain who Sasria is, but most importantly, why is a Sasria, for instance, relevant to talking to candidates like yourselves, graduates as well as students. So, because this is part of an INCITA program, so we decided that we're going to partner with them just to share some information largely about risk. Now, you have insurance companies and you have insurance companies that do special risk. Now, most people don't really know the difference between your normal insurance risk as well as special risks. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be uncovering today. So at first, I'm going to be covering this at a macro level because normally insurance companies would cover risk at a micro level. So showing the difference between the two, first of all, as well as planning for large-scale risk management at a sovereign level, because that's where it starts. If you understand insurance from that level or risk transfer at that level, it becomes easier to integrate yourself into the industry, particularly the insurance industry, the financial services in particular. So I'll talk about what are the things that threaten the fiscus. I'm going to be talking about gaps that lead to special risk in particular. So there are various parts that the States goes through in respect of planning for activities that need to go into the fiscal budgeting process. However, there are certain elements of that that lead to volatility. So some contingent liabilities that if they were to occur, it would bring volatility into the budgeting space. So they try to find ways of transferring that risk so that the budgeting process, whatever revenue South Africa collects, we are able to then, everything that we need to do that is planned for the medium to long term is actually the sufficient revenue in order to be able to do all of those things. Because those contingent liabilities that actually takes place, they take away the ability for the fiscus in order to respond in a way that it should. So then they need to reserve a very large fund out of the fiscus, and there's opportunity cost loss obviously in respect of putting that money into other things that matter. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to talk about Sasria as an entity, first of all. So, Sasria is a state-owned entity, so we are owned 100% by government. However, we are a public entity, a Schedule 3 public entity. Those who understand, there's a legislation called PFMA, Public Finance Management Act. So it pretty much sets us to be an entity that is not entirely managed or administered by government. It's independent in that respect. And it is an insurance company that is registered. We are a registered insurer, and at the same time, we are a financial services provider. So in the financial services space, there are various legislations that are quite important for you as graduates, as well as students, that you need to start learning about before you even get into the workspace. Because when you go for interviews, for instance, you're going to get to a position where there's certain things that you're required to know at minimum. So if you're going into the banking space, or if you're going to the insurance space, there are certain acts, laws that you require to learn and know and understand. So in insurance in particular, there's life insurance and there's non-life insurance. And there are legislations that were enacted, well, they were changed over time, but the ones that are relevant is the Insurance Act 53, Short-Term Insurance Act 53, and Long-Term Insurance Act 52. So those two acts were amended in 2017 when there is an Insurance Act that covers all insurance activities. And then in respect of the value chain, there is also an act called it's FASE, so it's Financial Intermediary and Services Act. So all it does pretty much, it regulates how you give advice to clients. It also regulates how you render intermediary services, because in the insurance value chain, you have a client, you have a middleman or a broker or an intermediary. That's the person who's in between the insurance company and the client. So there's an act that regulates how they conduct themselves. And then the insurance company itself then is the one that needs to take risk. So there's something that is called underwriting. It's a very, I would say, specialized type of risk management. And an insurance company, in order to be able to manage its risk, to balance its assets and liabilities, and be able to take on a risk that would be within their capabilities or the risk within their risk-bearing capacity, then it means then that they need to underwrite the business that they take on quite holistically. And where there are variances or there is a level of risk that is outside their risk appetite, then they transfer that risk to other insurers. Those are called the reinsurers. So the aim of Sasria in particular is to ensure that the risk that is taken by the private insurers, if it gets to a point where it gets too big for the private sector in order to be able to handle, then it becomes special risk. And that's what we're going to be talking about then today. So special risk would be the risk that is so big that private capital or private equity is unable to manage the risk, because it could be systemic, it could be extremely complex, and it could be volatile, that the returns are not guaranteed. So the private sector would then withdraw from that, and then it becomes a vacuum, a space, a gap where no one is providing cover. So what happens with that then is that the state, as the last insurer of resort, will be required to do something about it. So, and I'll give an example of the floods that took place in KwaZulu-Natal. Private insurers can only cover as much as a certain point, and when the requirement for cover is exceeding what they can actually be able to bear, it becomes a government problem. And that's one of the things that become an issue to the state. And then that's why Sasria was created, to cover that space, the excess risk that the private sector is unable to carry. So just to unpack, so that's who we are as an entity. We, in terms of the market structures, we are a monopoly. So meaning there's no competition. We're the only entity in South Africa that is allowed by law to handle those risks that are within that space. So there are other entities that are doing sort of like semi-risk or semi-special risk. So those would be the risks that are highly specialized, And it would normally, that space is quite oligopolistic because there are only a few entities that are able to play in that space because they are specialized, they have the skills and everything. However, the risk in itself, sometimes it gets so big that it then moves on to the space of special risk. And then where you have normal competition, that's where you have pretty much the standard business like your personal lines, your commercial lines, and everything else, where the loss ratios as a measure of profitability for an insurance company is not in excess of what is reasonable in terms of returns. So, moving into special risk. So first of all, we need to understand what risks at a sovereign level that would bring to an entity or I would say a government or a state in a position where it requires to take some type of risk transfer mechanism. Now, a government budgets based on its expected revenue, and then it obviously looks at economic activities insofar as what are the things that we need to do as a country to stimulate growth so that there are more opportunities for people to be employed and all other money policies that the government has. So if there are any particular events that could be so unpredictable or that could be so devastating that the government cannot be able to plan for in respect of what to expect. So that's where you have issues that lead to sovereign risk. So, and to measure what could potentially be those risks, so what then we look at, you look at what are the things that could threaten the fiscus. So there are various parts that, I think there are about 4 or 5 or 6 various components that are looked at. But for the purposes of today, we're going to look at the contingent liability component because that's where the insurance space in particular can be able to play a role. So what is it then that could potentially be an issue in respect of contingent liabilities? Let's look at South Africa. South Africa is a semi-arid country, so meaning it's like semi-desert. So what does that mean? So it means then that you need to understand the cyclicity of how the weather patterns behave. Right, so there are 2 elements to that. The one is natural disasters. So natural disasters is one key element within contingent liability management that is needed to be understood, particularly by academics, because that's where those are the people who go and uncover things and research things and see and benchmark with what is being done in the world and bring it back to a South African context. So South Africa, we have 3 problems. The one problem is extreme drought. And the other problem is, because we are a semi-arid country, so we do experience drought. So there's a cycle that we've been tracking, I think since about 1970, that shows, there are various mechanisms to measure this, but one of those would be an ENSO cycle, where you're looking at when we go into a drought situation, how far does it go and for how long does it last? And then we look at that cycle, and then when the opposite, which is La Nina happens, where there's like extreme rain, how far does it go and for how long? And what is the excess rain, so that we work out the average which is required insofar as vegetation is concerned, insofar as crops are concerned as well. So the minute you go through the extremes, then that's where we measure to see that how far the spread between the 2 gaps is actually going. So when it goes extreme, then it means you are moving into a different territory in respect of the management of that risk. And we've seen over time that the gaps between the cycles has been on average about 7 years, but the cycle's becoming shorter, meaning we're experiencing more severe cases of these extremes in a shorter period of time. And not only in a shorter period of time, but the severity of that is getting worse. So when you have an extreme case of severity and an extreme case of frequency, then it becomes an extremely disastrous type of a problem. So to give you a perspective, in South Africa, I think right now we have only about 3 insurance companies out of about 8 in the past that used to cover drought as an example. So everything that we have on our table today, it can easily be wiped out within one cycle if there is no insurance or transfer of that risk to another party. So the transfer of that risk has decreased since 2010 up to about 2018. So I have statistics up to 2018, where we used to cover about just over 1 million hectares of land for drought. And today, we cover about less than 40%. And I think that 40% is probably even lower now because it's a statistic up to 2018. So what does it mean? It means then that should there be an extreme case of drought, which we do predict that in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll probably experience an extreme case of drought in South Africa. And when we do, it's not only going to be in one cycle, meaning that a farmer would have to experience extreme losses within one financial cycle, but it's going to increase up to about 2 or 3 seasons. Excuse me. So, and that's going to be a problem though, because already we don't have enough capacity. So it means that 60% of what we have on our tables will not be, because there will be no capacity to replenish. And what that will do then is that in the following year, because insurance is done on an annual basis, there will be no capacity to maintain the 40%, probably go down to about 20. If it persists, I think the picture, you can get the picture. So what is it then that we look at as a SASRIA, for instance, and why am I here particularly today? Because I want to invite and start getting graduates to start thinking about how to get into the complex and extreme, complicated type of insurance management. It starts with understanding the risk, and then you are able to come up with solutions in respect of how to deal with that. So if the risk has a fiscal threat, if it's complex and it's systemic and it's extremely volatile, then it becomes a special risk. So I've covered this to a large extent, so I've just chosen 2 criteria that are used when they're analyzing the factors that could cause a fiscal budget variation. So macroeconomic risks, I think those are quite straightforward. There's normally policies or money policies that are put in place to try and manage these. But where we get particularly interested in, for us, it's on the contingent liability and other uncertain eventualities. So, and those vary. So the ones that we are concerned about is natural disasters, as well as man-made catastrophes. So I'm sure most of you have seen what happened last year. So last year we had the biggest riot in the history, by biggest riot in history, I'm talking about in terms of the damage that was caused within a particularly short space period of time. So we experienced close to 60 billion rands worth of damage in South Africa within 7 days. And that is the biggest by far, because if you compare it to others in the world, in the US and in Chile, for an example, where it went over a period of about 3 months, the damage was about $2 billion US. Ours was within 7 days. And the damage was over $2 billion US. So categorically, it has been deemed to be the biggest insofar, the biggest damage within the shortest period of time. So we probably are going to be in the Guinness World Record for that particular one. Not for the right reasons, of course, but it just shows why that is. And obviously, why that happened, it happened because we have a history as a country of violence insofar as wanting to be heard. Because I went to see one of the biggest malls in KZN. What I saw was that it was looted almost completely. And once it was looted, I think one could argue insofar as this was a case of we are hungry, as an example. But they went back to the same structure, and I'm using the words carefully, strategically, at strategic points, went to plant or to start fires that would collapse the integrity of the structure. So, and that obviously raises another element insofar as why something like that would be done, because a hungry person has no incentive in demolishing a structure of that magnitude, as an example. So, insofar as special risk, now that we understand what special risk is insofar in our definition and why we are here to take care of that. So for us, we're looking at man-made risks, particularly terrorism, particularly riots and strikes, but we also do public unrest. So the category of public unrest, it falls within the confines of what took place last year. So as an entity, SASRIA, out of the close to 60 billion rands worth of economical damage, we paid out as an insurance company 37 billion rands worth of that. So meaning we were able to bring back South Africa into a closer position than it was before. The question is, what would have happened if there was no SASRIA? Because the state, as I said, this is an extreme case of a fiscal threat that could have been an issue. So state would not have had enough money in order to be able to pay for all the damages. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest retailers who's headquartered in Cape Town had a damage of 1.8 billion, one entity. And we had more than 20,000 claims that we had to handle. And you can understand the level of complexity if you are an insurance assessor, for an example, having to assess a claim of up to 1.8 billion, you can understand the level of skill that is required in order to do that. So, in the insurance space, particularly in the complex and special risk space, there is a shortage of skills. And those skills are a shortage because we know that there is lack of awareness insofar as what we do and why what we do is actually so interesting, that last year we had to try and even source some resources from outside the country. That's how bad the situation was, because we needed to ensure that when we assess to a degree that would be in line with bringing back the clients to the position that they were before. So this is just an example of the non-life insurance space, where property is normally the biggest risk that we have. Even within that, the confines of that, there is a gap that is growing between what the private sector can do and then within what we can do as a SASRIA as well. What you see there in red is currently the gap, where the private sector is slowly de-risking from that complex claim, meaning that the space within which we are operating is getting bigger, but we don't have resources, we don't have skills. And we cannot afford to go outside the country when we, as the special insurers, we do have those skills, and we want to be able to be in a position to impart those skills to young graduates so that they can be able to come into the space that we operate in and be able to make that difference. So if you particularly have an interest in understanding what we do and how we do it, we do have some programs, of course, but I think there is a bigger collaboration that is required insofar as bringing those skills into fruition. So now that we do understand that, so I'll just bring you at a much higher macro level space to say that some global approaches insofar as risk transfer is concerned, because the fact that we are a monopoly, it means we're the only entity that does this, and our statement of financial position is limited to as much as reserves that we are keeping. So there are two ways. One is to have our own reserves, and the secondly is the transfer of the risk to reinsurers. So the capacity that we can tap into from the world, as well as what we have on our side, is what we can have. And when that has been exhausted, then we sit with the problem of having to go back to a national treasury as our shareholder, cap in hand, to say, ask for more funds. So we are now in a process of re-establishing a special risk funding model. So there are two models. So for instance, the ex-post ones are normally associated with delays, and they're a problem because it means in the fiscus you need to reserve a very big fund, whereas you could take a portion of that fund, about a tenth of that, and use that as a risk transfer to access exactly the same amount of capacity that you'd be reserving, and the difference could be used into other strategic projects as a country, for an example. So in South Africa, we have a budget allocation system which is pretty much derived from the revenue that we raise, and then when there's a disaster, we try to reshuffle, the budget and try to get money from other allocations as well. And it doesn't always work well because it means you are not prepared when you are hit with something that is unforeseen, as we saw last year. Luckily, last year, we were able to get funds from Treasury purely because of commodity price being more than what they were expected. There was an overcollection in terms of budget from taxation as well. So as a result, there was additional funds. Question is, what would have happened if those funds were not there? It means SASSA would have not been in a position to pay out as we did. But what really works mostly, it's a dedicated reserve fund, which is ex post. So meaning that you have a fund that is reserved for specific strategic eventualities that as a country you know that you will experience, particularly like we are predicting now, because scientists, we look at what is it that we believe could happen in the next short period of time, like drought as an example. You can quote this day, hope it never happens. It happened in the next 3 to 7 years that we experience an extreme level of drought that would devastate South Africa. We know it's a ticking time bomb, but we do not have a prior the event type of a risk management approach as a country. But these are discussions that we're having with National Treasury as we speak right now. So, and others that really work, for instance, I think the best one that there is a Spanish model that what they do is there's a fund that gets transferred into a consortium. The consortium is consisting of a government entity as well as a private sector. It's like a triple P. So they create a joint stock structure of some sort where the participation of the private sector and the public sector is in an independent sort of part of a structure that is not entirely government, that is not entirely private at the same time. So it's a perfect public-private partnership model that really works because there's accountability with all the funds that the state is putting into that structure, as well at the same time the efficiencies of the private sector are brought into that structure as well. So extremely work well. It even has a very large equalization fund where they are able to tap into it should there be a problem, as an example. So before I close, I'm just going to show, this is what we have proposed to the National Treasury as an example, to say as a country, we have a funding model in respect of special risks that looks at the bottom, that's where you have your normal insurance companies that are insuring the risks that they can do within their confines of risk appetite, and everything else that is not covered by them, it goes into that space, the public's insurer space, and that's where we are. But even within our confines, there are certain risks like drought, for an example, where we believe that pooling of resources, like creating a pool of some sort, like the one I've just explained from Spain, could be able to absorb some of those shocks that would be bigger than what we can handle even as a public state entity. So we want to introduce some type of a before the event type of risk transfer mechanism so that the state doesn't necessarily have to have a big contingent liability component into the fiscus, as an example. So before I close then, just to recap, there is insurance as you know it, where you have a client, you have a broker, you have an insurance company, and then you have a reinsurer. And then you then have a space where there are certain gaps insofar as the level of risk now at a sovereign level, where if that risk were to materialize, that the entire country could actually be at risk. So it is that space that I want to raise awareness to you about, to say that it's a very big space, it's a very exciting space, because you get to accumulate a certain level of skills that very few people actually can have. And I think if we don't start now to encourage participation from people like yourselves, that I think in the nearer future we're going to run out of skills. So I'm going to pause there, Program Director, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Muzi. Can we give him again a round of applause for the last time? I know that you must be tired. We are in the in the next 15 minutes we'll be done with our program. I would like to welcome Riley. She's a female who is producing her own wine. Can we welcome Riley with a round of applause? Guys, can you please, we'll be finishing the program just now so that we avoid the going up and down. I know that you must be tired. Thank you. Welcome, Riley.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Rayleigh. I'm from Woody Wines, and we are a family wine company. We own a farm in Stellenbosch, and we've been in the industry for the past 20 years. I don't really have much to say, but what I can talk about is the value chain in the wine industry itself. If you have any interest in the industry, we have 4 aspects where you start off with first the production of the wine, which is your farming, your viticulture, and from there you have the manufacturing of the wine. After the manufacturing, you have your marketing, and then retail and distribution. So it's a very wide value chain. You have various aspects of it. It's not just about winemaking. You don't need to have a farm to have a brand, for example. You don't have to necessarily sell your wine in retail stores. You can have it in restaurants, or you can sell it directly to the consumer. Of course, you have to have a distribution license. You don't necessarily have to have a liquor license. But yeah, are there any questions? No, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Riley. She's very nervous, guys, because she's the one who's making money. She's not used to, giving speeches. She's used to being in meetings and doing presentations when they need investors. So can we give Grant the next facilitator who will be taking us through to challenge now our speakers today to see that what they were telling us is true. Don't you think so? Yeah, because now they've been giving us more information, talking and talking and talking. So can we welcome Grant on stage? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to request that we have our speakers for the day today here in front. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. While we just give some time for our speakers to gather in front, let me introduce myself. So, my name is Grant Bel-Ayres, and I am an entrepreneur as well. I started my business in 2013 and then did nothing for 2 years. And then in 2015, I actually started working at my business. Now, when we started, I had nothing but a skottelbraai. You guys know what a skottelbraai is? It's that old school little braai that we make out of drums. And about 500 rand to start my business. Now I have over R1 million in assets. I have a company bakkie, my own vehicle, and a 6.5 meter food trailer that we are in the process of franchising. So that is what entrepreneurship or working on your business can do for you within a space of 5 years. Now, aside from that, our business has also expanded to do skills development training. So we train chefs. And we also train people in IT, basic IT skills, mobile literacy, and also advanced IT courses such as web design, introduction to IoT, artificial intelligence, and data science and analytics. So yeah, that's just me in a nutshell. There is a lot more, but I think the spotlight today is on our speakers who are standing here in front. And they're looking so nervous right now. Okay, so the reason why we're just having this little session is because I'm sure that our participants out there, you guys have given lots of presentations and a lot of information about what your businesses do and that, but it doesn't exactly give a person an idea of what it's like to run a business, does it? So my job here is to ask the slightly tough questions about the ins and outs of how you're running your business, how did you get started, and what that was like. So I guess the first question is, why did you get started?
I think I'm gonna select a Puri.
Why did you get started? What motivated you to start your business?
Yeah, hey, that's an interesting question. What got me to start my business was while I was working for, like I said, I used to work for SAB. I was a brewer, training as a brewmaster. I got to see what people were doing with craft beer. So I visited festivals, saw people having their own breweries, and I learned that this thing, even though in South Africa is something that is not known, in the States, in Europe, it's a big thing where people actually have their own brands. So for me, it was from that, being curious. And then I started making beers. People said they were very nice, and they told me, but why don't you open your own brewery? And over a few years, I decided to leave comfort of a full-time employment with all the nice perks, and I've never looked back. So it's been an interesting journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yeah, you know, it's starting a business is quite a journey, and you obviously identified a need that, or you saw an open space in which you then could implement and start your own business model. And you know, I really do applaud you for that. So the next question that I want to ask is, if we look at business, and especially starting out a business, what are some of the challenges that you experience as someone who's starting out?
I think I will go to Riley for this one.
Challenges. In the wine industry, I think the challenges are endless. But for an entrepreneur in the wine industry, I think the challenge is, as a young female in a predominantly white male industry, is extremely challenging. You have a lot to prove, and farming as well. Like I said, you don't necessarily need to have a farm to have a wine brand. In fact, one would argue that it's probably easier to have a brand and try to market it and sell it than to have the farm and the brand, because you end up taking your profits and putting it back into the farming, maintaining the farm, and that takes a lot more than growing the brand. It takes a lot away from growing the brand. So I think there are many challenges, and one challenge as well, the biggest one I suppose, is in our country where we seem to be have a problem with alcohol. So trying to be in a wine industry where you are trying to sell your brand, but also try and educate people on how to enjoy the brand. That is quite challenging, and not to abuse it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Riley. Is it Riley or Riley? Riley. I just have a follow-up question, and this is based on when you were standing here and you were just talking to everyone. You mentioned something that myself and my colleague from Sasria found quite interesting, and that was that you don't necessarily need to have a liquor license if you're going to distribute. Could you perhaps explain that a little bit more for those who might be interested in going that direction?
for example, if you, like Uber Eats, for example, not many know that you can actually distribute your product on Uber Eats. Though I think I stand corrected about the liquor license. But yeah, I think I stand corrected on that one. But for example, you can have you can have a company where you have alcohol products on your portfolio, and you can distribute that to either individual consumers or to smaller retail stores, liquor stores, or restaurants.
So would that mean you would technically be working with someone that has a liquor license and they're distributing on your behalf?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who couldn't hear the question, she was just saying that you could work with someone who has a liquor license and they could then distribute on your behalf.
Okay, so what happens is the manufacturing or the license to make the product sits with the person who has the machinery. So in a case, it will be the winery. So the winery will be licensed to make the product. You can then come and as a normal entrepreneur and buy off the product that's been manufactured. So the winery will pay all the license, will pay SARS, will pay everything, will make sure the product is compliant to HACCP, all the other legal food laws. When as an entrepreneur, you come in as a brand owner. So you buy the product already packaged, so you don't have to worry about how the making of it. But what you do need to have is a distribution license, because in South Africa, by law, for product alcohol to move to get to the consumer, in between, it must move through a licensed entities. So you can move from the winery through a brand owner who has a distribution license to the consumer. So I think that's answered. So it means you don't have to have a wine farm. So, because we can't all have wine farms, but we all can create brands. We all have the capacity to build brands and. Thank you. Sorry to hijack the question.
No, you didn't hijack. Actually, this is it's called women empowerment and women encouragement. So Riley's is very shy. So she is used to this audience. You see, so yeah. Back to you, Grant.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's a roundtable discussion. We're here to sort of give little answers that'll help inspire the young entrepreneurs in the room. So every little bit helps. So thank you both for answering that question. Now, I know that in our panel we have...
Guys, back there, there's a discussion. So I'm not sure whether is it part of this or you've got your own discussion. So the sooner we listen and respect each other, we will be able to finish. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I know we have some people in our panel that work for corporate and not necessarily their own companies. So I have a question for them, which is not related to how you started your own business, but more related to your career path. How did you end up where you are? And what achievements have you had personally in the sector that you're working?
I think I will select Muzi because he gave us quite a high-level presentation. So we want to know the answer to that, don't you think?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Yeah, well, I'll try to put this more as an encouragement as well, because I come from a very small town, Mpumalanga, called Amelos, like, those one street type of a town. Not really much role modeling around me. And obviously, I had a pretty good, high school experience, matric. I had about 3 A's, did quite well in school. However, couldn't get any bursaries. So I tried to apply everywhere. I couldn't. So I had to go to work, found work, worked for a doctor. But I think the biggest thing for me that I always knew was that I wanted to do great things. And in doing great things, it requires you to be able to look beyond your situations look beyond what you have, your limitations. I didn't have many role models. The role models that I picked up were ones that I could see on TV doing great things. So how I ended up here today, being a kid from a small town, could barely speak English, went to a township school, and all of that's packed against having a vision of doing great things. Fast forward a little bit, started working a little bit, getting a little bit of income. I started quite early to want to advance myself. So I had a mentor, which I would really advise. Get someone who you look up to, or someone who has something that they've achieved that you would like to be. So, I met someone who helped me quite a lot. So he said, okay, plan for the next 5 years. What do you want to be? Don't think about money, don't think about anything. So I said I wanted to have a degree. He said, well, okay, these are options. You can choose to start today or tomorrow, whenever you do, but when you start, you know that you finish. So I then studied through UNISA, got a degree 4 years later, record time, because I was determined. And then I managed to, once I got a degree, I think I had that boost in me that I did remotely while I was working, doing assignments, didn't know how to operate a computer. The point I'm making is you can make excuses based on your situation, or you could find ways. I found ways, and it happened. The minute I got a degree, I was then able to get better employment. Up to that point, I still didn't know what it is that I wanted to do, because I wanted to be a computer programmer as a child, but I couldn't go to school for it, and I couldn't do it remotely as well. So I found myself in business. Then I looked at it and said, what is it in business that is being done currently that very few people are good at, where not many people are going to that space because it's complex. And I wanted to find something that would make me stand above the rest of the people really in a particular entity. Then in insurance, I realized that there are three things really. One is either you go the actuarial route, which I didn't really have a degree in that lane. So I was like, okay, or the legal route, or the risk management in general route. So largely that's what you find in insurance. But then to encourage myself and to get myself where I am, I decided that I'd learn all of those things. I don't need to have an actuarial degree to be an actuarial scientist. I don't need a legal degree for me to be a lawyer. I don't need a risk management degree to be a risk manager. So I started understanding what is it that I need to know. Then, I got to a point where I uplifted myself to a position where I could argue with actuaries. In fact, defeat them sometimes. Lawyers. You can put me in a room with a lawyer about insurance law. Very few lawyers could argue with me. Why? Because I've studied everything they've studied. The difference between them and me is that they have a qualification in that field. I have the knowledge and the experience. So, point I'm making is, if you go into a space, any space, learn the laws that govern that space. Learn all the legislations that govern that space. Read it back to front and front to back and analyze it and speak to people who are in that space. Finance is critically important. If you don't know how to structure a business or any entity, let alone a big entity that has balance sheet of over billions, like I'm responsible for now, you need to understand how things work. Benchmark against the best in the world, not locally only. And then thirdly, do understand the risks that are involved in that space. So the two ladies here mentioned a couple of interesting things, but I think the one that needs to be escalated is you need to understand, because whether you're an entrepreneur or in business, you do need to understand the market that you're selling to. If you don't understand the market you're selling to, you won't know what product to create, you won't know how to brand, because branding is an extremely important part of business, because people buy a brand. Why would somebody stand in a queue for 12 hours to buy the very first iPhone when it does exactly the same thing that an Alcatel or whatever else is there is doing? Why? It's because they're not buying the feature. There's a reason why. They're buying the reason why these people say you should buy it, because it resonates with something that you feel good about. So that component of business, I think is an extremely important. And I'm just adding to the question as to what are the challenges. My biggest thing is to understand and have access to a market. Because if you don't, you can be great, but you won't be good enough. So today, I'm 41 years old. I'm the youngest executive in the company that I work in. But I think in terms of experience, I really can compete with the 60-year-olds. And I think because I'm younger and I'm vibrant, and I have this hunger to do better, I am able to really, how do I put this in a way that you can understand? I walk into a room with a certain level of presence, and that confidence, it doesn't just come. It comes because I know that I can back it up. I have information about everything that there is to know about the industry that I'm in. It's a long-winded response, but I think since we're talking to young people, I might as well just motivate them.
Okay, thank you, Muzi. With just a follow-up question, I want to find out, you are from a small town, and the challenge that we are experiencing now in our country is a drug problem. And most young people, they are indulging in this, and also seeing that it is affecting the younger generation that we are expecting to groom to be in the next corporate world, to be entrepreneurs. What advice can you give them? I know that we can't say do not take this, but what one motivation that you have that you kept up until today, it is still your motivation?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question because of the context of South African socio-economic issues that we're dealing with. I think hope, first of all. What kept me going was hope. I had a lot of hope insofar as what I believe that my life is not really what is around me. So looking at a context where there are young people who are mostly idle, who do not necessarily have a vision beyond where they live or what they do, I think there are three things that are important. One is that the communities that we live in, as well as the society, that immediate society that we're living in, there has to be an enough level of engagement of the youth to hear from them. I think we do things at communities for people thinking this is what they need or this is what they require. I think we need to try as communities to get to understand and hear from them. What is it that would drive them to do this? What is it that would stop them from doing that? Because you cannot solve a problem that you don't really understand or that you see from a different perspective. I think that's the first thing. We need a perspective from whoever it is that is more likely to take drugs, if it's drugs, or to do anything that is outside of what we expect them to be, for them to be the next members of society. Then the second thing is that we need to bring more individuals that could be looked at as role models closer to them. I think once we get successful and move up, we move away from those society we don't associate. I think there's a separation that happens. I think that needs to be brought back. I try to do it back home, and I can assure you, when I go to speak at a school, particularly the school that I went to, I get feedback from the teachers that even the most disgruntled kids in class, they start behaving in a certain way because of the certain level of motivation that they see. Somebody who comes from the same background, who's been able to make it, who comes and tell them that it can be done. Not only that it can be done, but that these are the things that you can do. A practical example of something that can actually lead to a particular path. And then lastly, I think there's a role that we need to play, a collaborative role that we need to play. I was talking to my INSETA colleagues the other day, yesterday actually, about what we believe needs to be done in those communities. Creating structures and places and in communities where they can be able to access certain information, for instance, how to apply or get additional help online that is free in communities. I think rebuilding structures like that in communities will also help. A lot of them, once they start seeing one or two of their peers going that route, I think they will be encouraged to do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I've just got two more questions. The one question is, if you could suggest anything for a young entrepreneur to learn that is absolutely essential, what would that be? And we will just wait a few seconds.
My apologies. What was the question, sorry?
So the question was, if our panel could suggest one thing that's absolutely essential for a young entrepreneur to learn, what would that be?
Yes. You see, this question, definitely, it will be good for our young entrepreneur here.
Can you just repeat it again, please?
So the question is, if you could suggest anything that's absolutely essential for them to learn, what would it be? As a young entrepreneur.
One essential thing to suggest would be can I have some help here?
Yeah. The one thing for me, guys, what I would say, because you find sometimes people say, you know, I wanna open my own business, I wanna do this. So for me, the key things, you need to know what you're doing. There's a book I talked about earlier, Outliers. A lot of the books talk about the 10,000 hour rule, that to master anything. I said earlier on that I'm a brewmaster. I didn't wake up to become a brewmaster. I didn't wake up and started my company. I worked for SAB for 10 years and started and built it and learned. So don't think, I mean, we, unfortunately, the media, social media show on everything the good side. They don't show you the tough times. And for me, I find that quite wrong because people grow up thinking life is easy, that I can wake up, start my own business, and tomorrow I'm a multi-millionaire. And that's why when I shared my story, I made sure I tell you I failed. Things have gone wrong because things will go wrong. So know that the journey is not easy. And the one important thing, don't just get into anything if you do not know. You must have some sort of a foundation. Or in terms of what you want to get into. So I don't know if the other guys want to add on.
I mean, for myself, I'm not necessarily an entrepreneur, but with Private Wealth, we work hand in hand with them. Like, you need your business plan, you need to be disciplined, you need to be focused, and you need to also accept criticism. If you take a product to somebody and you say, so this is what I do, and they're like, no, don't let it get to you personally. Understand your market, know your strengths and your own weaknesses, work smart and not hard. So find people that are your people and that will assist you, but do it in a way that is productive, it's efficient, and it helps everybody. So it's also not just about yourself. Remember, when you're starting a business, it's not just about your own growth. You are then enabling and helping those around you. Like she said, she came from a community just like Muzi did. You go back and you help the people that you know have the potential but feel that they're incapable of doing it because of circumstances. So push your way forward, be resilient, and you can do it.
Thank you. Okay, you owe me. Yeah, okay.
Well, then perhaps the next question is for him, and it's the last question. Which would be, what advice would you give to someone? I'm assuming that all the young people here, they have an idea, and they perhaps haven't started yet. What advice would you give them to get going?
This one is easy. What is motivating you now? What advice can you give them?
Okay, so I think you have to set yourself a goal. What do you want? Where do you want to be? I've set myself a goal where I want to be in 12 or 8 months' time from now. So ask yourself where you want to be in 1 year, 5 years' time, and work towards that. Do everything you have to do so that you are there in 5 years' time. And just do everything that you can do. You don't want to look back and have any regrets and say, I could have done this or I could have done that. Just go all out and make the most of everything that you have.
Okay, Muzi wants to add.
Okay. Guys, just one thing. Okay, all right. So this is just a parting shot in respect of entrepreneurship.
Okay, guys, if you leave quietly, okay?
What is happening, if I may ask?
Okay.
Yeah, but you as elders, you can't do something for high schoolers and then you guys can.
I'm the one who's in charge. So the bus is leaving, you said 20 to 1. Okay. Remember I said that we are almost done. So if now you are leaving and the person they are presenting here, I understand, and the bus won't leave you. We did pay, the bus won't leave you. And you still need to eat lunch. So if it means I go to the bus driver to tell the bus driver that you will wait for the learners. Yes. Unless you are saying to me you are bored, you want to go outside. Let's have order. Okay, can we get
Okay.
back to the conversation? Because at the end of the day, you still need to go to the stores and collect the goodie packs that you have. And now if you're rushing to go to the bus, with due respect, I am not saying don't go, but I have the authority to go to the bus driver and tell the bus driver you can't leave the learners here. Thank you.
All right, I promise I'll be quick on this one. I've owned 2 businesses as well, and I think the one thing that led me to fail the first time around was that if you're in business, it obviously means that there's something that you have that you could offer as a solution, right? And I like what my sister said here about the 10,000 hour rule. That's quite critically important for you to be able to start, because it means you grind, you understand it, and you are in there. But you could still fail if you do not become dynamic. Remember, it's not about supply, it's about demand. So if you have a particular skill that you could supply, just make sure that you are always at equilibrium in respect of adjusting what you're supplying with what the demand is. So you could always shift or be dynamic enough to change your supply to meet your demand. So in other words, your solution that you are offering, it has to be a solution, not a product. So you're looking to solve a problem and not necessarily to make money, as an example. So the supply component of your offering has to always be in line with what the demand is. So what I mean is, problems are dynamic, they change. So meaning you will always be changing in business. The important thing is that in the quantum of growth, you will always reach maturity. And once you do, you need to be dynamic enough to re-establish yourself so that you take a new upward trajectory in your quantum. So that's quite critically important. It sounds a bit academic, but I think if you think of it simply, that always ensure that whatever you're offering as a product or as a service to a particular market, that it is the need that you are solving and not necessarily supplying what you're supplying because you are good at what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we give a round of applause to our audience, which is our entrepreneurs, our corporate. Thank you so much. You can have a seat. Are you done? And then can we give Grant a round of applause? And then can you give yourselves a round of applause? Okay, we are done with the program, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and also for being part of the Young Entrepreneurs Roundtables. So I am sure we're gonna produce 1 to 2 entrepreneurs here. And guys, the future is yours. No one is gonna motivate you. No one is gonna push you. So I think throughout, for years, you've been told and you've been gathering information. And the sad part is that you can't say that you are waiting for your parents to push you. And the reality is that we are hoping to have a brighter future South Africa, which gonna produce more entrepreneurs, because not all of us were born, as I've said, to be in a corporate world. The corporate world is not a very nice corporate world, yeah? Imagine if you have to wake up every day 6 o'clock, you go to the office at 8, and then you have your tea for 10 minutes, and then your family, they will call you that your child is sick, you have to rush to the hospital. Then you come back, your boss is saying you didn't submit the report. And then you get a report, another phone call to say something happened, there are floods or the geyser burst. So there are so many challenges. Over the weekend you work. So even with ourselves, we don't work 8 to 4. This is not a nice job. This is the 3rd career exhibition that we are doing. We have meetings even till 12 midnight, planning. Some things they fail along the way, some things we have to freestyle. Like today I had to freestyle. This is not my show, but I had to improvise, and we have to assist each other. Our event is next week. We've been on the road and we don't see our families. We sleep one day, we travel. You go to the next province, it's cold, and you meet people who don't want to listen. You have to shout down, "Ma'am, can you sit down?" It's not nice. And that time you are missing your bed. So it's not easy. So hence I'm saying, if you want to take ownership of your life, it is your life. If you want to do nothing and sit, it is your life again. This is how we can speak, we can pay people to come here and do these presentations. It's up to you. We have done our work. We have planted the seed, and if you don't want to grow that seed, it's still up to you. So we are done, and I am truly grateful for your respect, for your time, and it's cold here. So I'm just gonna allow you to go out. Just a second. Okay, now you can go to the stalls around and collect information. When you are done, lunch will be ready. Thank you so much. Here's a young entrepreneur. Thank you. Okay, bye.